we're going to look in here and see how far they are along. This location here is along the Wasatch Front in Utah, and it is the last week in March. It's been really cold and was warmed up the last few days considerably, so I'm not expecting to see swarm cells this early. It should be a couple more weeks, but we better keep an eye on it anyway. All right, I'm going to open the hive. Here's the best way to open a hive. So you take your hive tool, and I want to put the hive tool in underneath the lid. This is a migratory top, and I want to put the pressure on the side of the box. And I'll just give it a push there and pry up. Use it as a pry bar. So I don't want to do it this way because the end of the box right here is the weak point of the box. Typically when a box breaks, fails, it'll happen right here at the corner because you've got the rabbit right here and you'd have less wood in this corner of the box here. So rather than insert my hive tool this way and pry up on this weak spot, I insert it this way and pry up on this part of the box. That'll break, you'll hear it crackle. Oh, look at this. Here. So you'll break the propolis seal. The bees glue everything down. And that's why we need the hive tool to open the lid. If you're using a telescopic lid, this is the reason why you need an inner cover. So the bees will stick the lid down. And if you have your telescopic lid, you can't get your hive tool underneath there to pry apart the box components because they'll really stick things down good with that propolis. So your telescopic lid will come off first, then you pry off your inner cover just like I pried off this migratory top. Already this hive looks really good. I can look down in between the frames and I can see 1, 2, 3 frames of brood up in the top box. And I can look down here and I can see that that's empty. There's no honey in that comb. So without taking the frame out, I can tell a lot. I can put my hive tool down here. If I damage the comb a little bit like that, it's not going to be a big deal. They'll repair that. But there's no honey there. Okay, I better check further. I don't see any honey. I can't see any between the frames, and I can't see any honey on my hive tool if I poked it down in between there. So let's open this up and see what's in the bottom box. So it's a good sign that there is something down in the bottom box because they're using the bottom entrance instead of the upper entrance. So I'm guessing we've got brood and queen down here. Let's have a look. So I'll take the second box up, this super off, and I'll pry it apart with my hive tool just the same way I took the lid off. Right? So I'm gonna put the hive tool there and lift up. You'll hear the propolis crack apart. All right, already I can tell that there's not a lot in the upper box. It's not very heavy. All right, so I want to set this down on its end so I don't smash bees in the grass and the dirt. So already I can look, before I put smoke on, you'll see there's bees covering 8 out of the 10 frames in here. And I still don't see any honey down below. Okay, here's the next thing I see is brood. And I see drone brood. See how these cells are sticking out further away from the comb than most of the others. So I know that there's a queen in there because they're raising brood, and I know that they are on their way because just before swarm season they'll raise a bunch of drone brood. Right? So next thing I want to do is lift this up. It's really light. So with that many bees in there, this is a puzzle right now. Okay, so we got to make a decision right now. So we are at the end of March, and we're not that far away from flowers. We know there's robbing going on right now, so there's not any flowers out yet, but I gotta make a decision. This colony's momentum could be shut down if it doesn't get nectar right away. So I either need to feed it or I need to risk it that there's gonna be dandelions coming up in a week. Will they make it another week without any attention from me? Let's look further. To decide that, I'm gonna have to take some frames out and see if there's any fresh nectar coming in. We know there's some fresh nectar coming in from the honey they've been robbing.
From the truck?
Yeah, from the truck from last year, but let's see. All right, there's nothing on that. So part of the decision whether to feed these bees, whether we're having an emergency or not, is going to be how much brood do they have. Now they got a whole bunch of brood that they're feeding right now, if they are, and no honey. So that has no honey. Empty. Those are just empty cells. There's a little bit in there. You'll see some shiny, glossy honey.
And no eggs?
I don't see any eggs on that. So the information that I've already gathered from this yard tells me that I'm not worried about swarming yet. I'm not going to go through all the colonies in this yard and look for swarm cells because there's not a nectar flow on. They're not going to get serious about swarming and raising a new queens unless they've got a lot of nectar coming in. So you can see how much smoke I'm using or how much smoke I'm not using. I want to keep these bees nice and calm. All right, so I've looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They're really mad.
And they're getting mad because they're not busy on nectar and they're robbing. They're mad there. I need to put a frame of honey in here right away. I'm gonna go back to the truck and get a frame of honey.
Maybe like 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I'll take out some frames that are the most empty, for sure, that don't have any pollen. All right, now there's still pollen in here from last year. I want to leave the pollen. That has a little bit of pollen, but not much. It's mostly empty. Okay, shake the bees off. One good solid frame of honey in here would be enough to get them through another week. I know they only need another week. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to the truck to get honey.
Here's down back with some honey.
All right, I've got 2 frames of honey from some bees that died this winter. Can I feed this back to the bees? Well, they didn't have foul brood, so yes. There's a little bit of mouse damage. That won't hurt anything. All right, the best place to put these frames in the hive would be near where they're going to want to raise brood. There's already a little bit of brood there on that frame. I'll put them not to the outside, but not in the middle either. In fact, maybe I'll put one there, and then I'll put another one a few frames over so that they'll have honey on either side of the brood chamber.
I noticed that they're already settling down a little.
These bees should be further along. So if they would have had just one good solid frame of honey in there from last year, from their own storage, they would be further along raising brood right now. I'm not seeing any worker brood, so it's really critical to get the bees working early in the spring, but these are going to take a little bit longer. Now that I gave them 2 frames of honey and they have plenty of brood, and the weather's going to warm up, they should take right off. If I came back here in a week, we'd see several frames of larvae. So If I would have done nothing here, these bees probably would have survived, but you want to take a look at the weather report in a situation like this. So if it was going to snow next week or rain all week, so the bees weren't going to fly, then these bees could be in trouble. I use a smoker to move the bees out of the way before I put the lid back down. That way I don't smash up any bees.
Does this area have a lot of wind? Like, is this something you should worry about here?
It does get windy here, yes. It's a good place to overwinter bees because it's a south-facing slope and it's up above the valley floor a little bit. We get temperature inversions here, so the cool air collects at the bottom of the valley, and this is up just enough that it's a little bit warmer and a southern exposure. They do well in this location.